Okay. Thank you all for joining this afternoon. We really appreciate you being here. This is the third in a series of trainings from Helen Wilson, our good friend from Instructure, the company that owns Canvas. Helen is a very experienced instructor and she's been great so far. And so we're just going to continue on with that streak as we take on this course, Canvas Basics. This is the first of two times that she'll do this, and we'll record each time and make those recordings available on the new Center for Teaching and Mentoring site, as well as the main Canvas project site. And I'm going to put both those links in the chat here in just a couple of moments. Or Karen, you can do that if you want to, or someone else. Links to the resources and the Zoom links and the main Canvas project site. So, Helen, I'll ask people too, as you may have questions during the session, I'll ask that you ask those questions in the chat. And we've got support people on this call, Karen and Jimmy and others. Albert's here, I see. I haven't looked at all the participants, but we've got people that can help answer those questions in the chat as we go along. And so, and if there's something, Helen, like we did last time, if there's something where I think I can interject, kind of representing the group, we may ask those questions then. But otherwise, we'll be asking questions and answering questions in the chat as we go along. All right, Helen, I think you can take it away. Thank you. It's so good to see you again. I'm glad you're here.
Hi there, Trey. Thanks for the kind introduction. Thanks again to MTSU for hosting me. And welcome to our really our second session as far as topics go. This is Canvas Basics, and similar to Canvas First Look, this is intended to be a high-level introduction, but this time we are going to dig into the details of a course. So as for our what and why, as in why is this session important? All of the areas that you'll see inside of our session today will be help meets for you as you start to conceive of how to get your course up and running. You're going to learn about various features inside a course like the rich content editor and modules which help you craft a course, various options for assessment, other areas inside the course where, although they're not exposed to students, they're still important for you to set up. For example, the assignment index that you'll see sometime today informs how your gradebook looks. And we'll also take a look at how grading can look, again, from that overview perspectives to help you understand that grading can be quick and efficient, but also be incredibly effective for students. So they understand your feedback and know what they have to improve on for next time and celebrate what they're doing well. So feel free to follow along here with me. And we're going to start to take a look at the ins and outs of crafting a course, again, from that overview perspective. The first area I want to walk you through is one big decision. What is it exactly that you need for students to see when they enter a course? If you attended our first session, you saw that I have my calculus course set up here with a home page set up. As a matter of fact, the home page is our recommended best practice because above all, it's the most visual of all your options. You can have here a banner that represents your course, plus a detailed course description, links, including your office hours information. You can even have images set to link out to various areas of your course. So our students could click on this button to go straight to the modules area. Now, although I've said the home page is our recommended best practice, I do also want you to know what your options are. So when you're inside of a course, and you may be inside of your sandbox right now contemplating this, select on Choose Homepage, and you'll see here a list of options. Right now, this front page is set up, but let's take a look at the other options you might employ. The first is called Course Activity Stream. And, as we go through these options, I do want you to have your student hat on, pretend that you're one of my students for a second, and ask yourself, is this the best way for students to see my course initially? One pro is that the course activity stream lets a student know the most active areas with blue dots indicating new areas for me, the student, to take a look at. However, it's not as visual. And if I was not skilled in the ways of Canvas, I might struggle as to where to find my assignments because I maybe don't know what an assignment notification is. As well, under choose homepage, you could choose to have your course modules be the homepage. If you recall from our first session, if you were there, course modules are folders that contain learning material. I'd say a significant pro of the module area being your homepage is that it's right down to business, because this is where students locate their resources and their assignments. I don't have to go to the homepage and then click on modules. I can go straight to modules. So that is a significant advantage. A possible con is that it's just not as visual as the homepage is. And if I really needed to get a hold of you, like if you were my instructor and I could not remember your office hours, I might be expecting to see it on the homepage, but it's not here. So it would mean you'd have to tell me where to find that vital information. Other options include the syllabus. A lot of higher ed instructors like the syllabus as a choice, simply because, again, you get right down to business, right? Here's the syllabus, right? The details of the ins and outs of the course, where I find out information like how you're grading me. But again, if I'm not well versed in the ways of Canvas, I might not know where to find that video that you asked me to watch for next week. One other possibility is to have your assignments list be part of your homepage. I'm going to be very honest with you, I don't like this for students. From the instructor perspective, frankly, it doesn't look like a big deal because it actually displays your assignments grouped into categories that we call groups. From the instructor side of things, this looks very nice and neat and organized, but I do want you to understand that this appears different from the student side of things. So I'm going to select on this View as Student button to show you that it does not look like this as a student. Uh, I don't see that assignments and discussions folder. I see a list of upcoming assignments. Okay, that might be helpful because I know I need to do these things. But then I see a list of undated assignments. So questions will swirl in my mind. Do I have to do these? And so I get caught up in all these questions and probably lose sight of why I'm here in your course in the first place. So I frankly don't recommend the assignments list, only because the view from the student side is really different when compared to the instructor side. So I'm going to go back and change that choose homepage back to pages front page. If you're curious about how to make a front page, we'll dig into that a little bit later on in this session. The second aspect of crafting your course is to figure out your course navigation. The course navigation menu is in this list of links that you see here on your homepage. I have several links with a crossed out I, meaning I'm choosing to hide those from students because frankly, they don't need that information to be successful in my class. And even areas like assignments. Yes, assignments, of course, are important, but we're going to place those assessment items like discussions, assignments, and quizzes inside of modules. So technically, they don't need to have access to these separate areas. Now, you have full agency over what areas of the course will show and not show. Here's an example. Let's say it's a year from now, you are awesome at Canvas and you want to start using this collaborations advanced feature with students. But right now it's not showing, right? Therefore, not helpful to me. Well, since you're the instructor, you can actually modify that. Let's make it so that areas that I'm going to be using with students are showing, and also make sure that items students don't need will be hidden. So to manage that, you're going to go to your settings link. It's always at the bottom. And the series of tabs pops up. So select on navigation. And here's where you can view the items that are visible and items that are not. Now, among the items you have visible, you can reorder them. So for instance, if I really want the grades area to be prominent, I can move that up to the top. So you can feel free to reorder these in whatever order you wish. Now, there are some areas of the course like item banks, even though it appears visible to students, it really isn't. I will show you proof positive of that a bit later. So remember, it's a year from now, right? I want to use this collaborations feature, but it's not showing. So if I want to enable that, I'm going to locate the collaborations card right here. And I'm going to hold on to this 8 dots area. Y'all, whenever you see those 8 dots in Canvas, I want you to literally think about a handle, right? Your grocery bag handle, your purse handle, and hold onto the handle as you drag it to where it's supposed to go. And in my case, I'm going to drag it up to the top table in my preferred location. Now, for friends among us who can't or don't want to do drag and drop, you have an option in the menu in the 3 dots just to click the 8 dots and then choose enable. And it pops it right into that top table. You can also use move to move that, see in this case, course evaluations, maybe after grades. Now, whatever you do here, scroll to the very bottom and please make sure to save. Otherwise, you're going to have to do this all over again. So let's check on our hard work here. Select on home and check on view as student. Remember, I told you item banks are not visible to students anyway. Here's proof. See, item banks is not there. But these areas are visible and accessible to students. Another thing you'll need to think about is to configure some of the course settings you can modify. So again, I'll select on the settings link here. And this time I'm going to stay on the course details area. Now, don't worry, you don't have to decide on changing every single little thing. Okay. But there are some things you might want to change. One of which is the course image. The course image might come over to you from Banner with maybe just a generic MTSU logo here, but it can be helpful to change the image to evoke what your course is about. So this is a calculus course, so I have calculus symbols written on the whiteboard. So please know you can change the image because it helps students find your course in Canvas much easier, right? So I select on the 3 dots where it says image. I can remove it. And then I select on choose image and then I'll pick some other picture. Now this is going to have to be a little random here. I'll just choose these glasses. And then now the picture is represented here. Unlike nicknaming, students can't change the picture, so they must interface with your image. Other things you might want to change include default due time. You see, when you set up an assignment with due dates, let's say your first due date is Friday, you can also set a time. The default is 11:59 p.m., but maybe you're concerned with encouraging students to sleep, in which case you can pick a different time so that from every assignment after this point, the due time is automatically listed as 8 a.m. Now, if you intend for it to be 12 p.m. for a certain assignment, you can still change that. But this makes it so that 8 a.m. is always listed by default every time you set up a due date. No need really to concentrate on changing the language unless maybe you're a language instructor and you teach an advanced version of the language. You see, if you change the language settings, I'll just show you here. If I change it to, say, French, right? Because that's what I teach. It's going to change the language of all of the navigation menu items, right? So they would see the French word for modules and the French word for grades. That is not, however, going to translate assignment directions or quiz questions.
Helen, if you don't mind, I just wanted to point out something to our faculty that so whenever you call for support, the first thing that I ask you is what is the CRN of the course that you're working in? Helen, if you could scroll up just a little bit to the SSID, or is that even shown in here?
Oh, I don't have it because I manually made the course, but there is
Okay.
an identifier for each course. That's correct.
Okay. So on this screen, when you go to course details, there's going to be an SSID that's going to show up about right in there. So that is going to be the easiest way for you to find the CRN, as opposed to you having to go to Banner or something to look it up or Pipeline. So you would just go to your settings on the left-hand side down there, and you'll see the course information right there.
It'll be somewhere in this area. It's close to the top.
Correct. All right. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, great reminder. I'll just also point out here for anybody who's concerned about such things, the amount of file storage you have allocated to the course is found next to file storage. This does not include student submissions, so students don't have to worry that their giant videos might be kicked out of Canvas. No, that's not true for them. It does impact, however, your files. So my giant videos that I upload do count against this number. There's also a couple of settings at the very bottom you might, I say might, want to turn on. This checkbox here allows for you to display the most recent announcements on the homepage. I do recommend that. I'd also recommend you have a small number here because your students will not thank you if you have 15 announcements showing on the homepage. When I was an instructor in Canvas, I did let students attach files to discussions and to edit their own discussion replies. If you have feelings about that, like don't listen to me, do your own thing. Just check off and check those boxes as needed. And if you are of the philosophy that announcements should be one-way communication, then do check off disable comments on announcements. Just make sure to save your changes here through the Update Course Details button. So now we have figured out, sort of, course navigation, some preliminary settings, realizing we want to have maybe a home page for the course. Now is the time to think about, well, how do you get content in the course? Because maybe you're looking at your sandbox and it's looking a little empty. Let's say you do want to create a home page. Well, the area, hello?
I'm sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand or click like Jimmy did with the yellow hand. Can we go back to where you said the default setting for due dates?
Oh,
Yeah, the 11:59. I have my courses pretty much set up, and I use the 11:59 for a lot of things. When I was setting up the start and end times for my test, 11:59 was not plugged in anything. I had to do it all manually. Did I miss something?
no, but then I would recommend having one of your Canvas admins take a look because the default due time should have been there when you set up the due date.
Okay, all right.
All right, let's head on back into the prospect of creating maybe a home page for your course. Um, and just to remind you, this is what I mean by home page. You can go into the pages area of your course and start to look at all of the pages that you may have visible in the course. Now mine is full, yours may be still empty. To create any of these Canvas pages, select on the plus page button. And this is where you would start to enter in your content. So I'm going to just make it distinct from the other homepage and just call it Helen's homepage. And I'm intending for this to be that welcome mat for students. So one thing I might want to include here is a banner of some kind. Now, we will have a detailed training about all of these functions, all right? This is just meant to be an intro. But I'll briefly show you that you can add images through this portrait icon. Select on the drop down here and you can upload an image to the course. I'll click on the spaceship and find a picture. And I admit I don't have a good banner to show. I'll just use this one. You'll also want to make sure to include some alt text so students with screen readers know what this is. Or if it's not tied to academic content, you can make that a decorative image so the screen reader skips over it. Select on Submit, and there is your new picture. You can also resize pictures, so I'm going to hold down on the corners and just make sure that that image is just a little bit smaller. And of course, you have functions to align your pictures, adjust the sizes. Of course, you can also include text. I'm going to use a heading text for this, just so I can put a welcome message. And if you're looking at the functions on my screen and thinking, this looks a lot like Word, you're right. The Canvas Rich Content Editor, which is this space, is deliberately designed to evoke Word, Google Docs, your word processing program of choice. So here's where you would enter in your welcome message. You can also add links. Links live here. You can add video. You can add PDF documents. And there's a variety of other tools you can add to any resource under the plug icon that lives right here. So we want to click on View All. You can see all the resources your Canvas admins have enabled already. Ooh, H5P, Office 365. YouTube is a great example. I can search for a video here and embed it. Not that this should be on a home page, but just so that you get the idea. So you can see that it's pretty easy to locate a YouTube video to add to your page. There's also some great formatting options here, like adding bulleted lists lives here, and additional options to add things to the rich content editor live here. So the too long didn't read version of all of that is you can add tons of content to a Canvas page in this way. Now, you may have heard me say multiple times last time, you must publish everything, and that's true for a homepage. So I'm going to pick Save and Publish. That makes it so that students can see it. And then I need to tell Canvas this is my new home page. So I'm going to have to go back to my pages index, which is right here. It's the list of pages. Find my page, and I have way too many here, I admit. Actually, did I have a search? No, I did not. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to look for it. But you can find that page, let's say it's this one, select on the 3 dots for it, and make it your home page. So once it has that home page flag, and once I click on home, that's going to be the new home page for the course. Again, not that this is a good home page, but you get the idea.
Helen, could you talk for just a second about pages?
Sure.
We're getting a custom template designed by Instructure that we can apply to courses that give faculty a really nice kind of look and feel for a course shell. Well, what about templates for individual pages? And Jimmy's mentioned we can find those in the Commons. And I'm wondering too about sharing them among faculty. Like, hey, here's a really nice page that I like in my class that I want to share with both
Sure.
other courses that I use, and then I want to share that with someone else with MTSU.
Yeah, this is a great question. So let's say this is the home page that I want to share to my fellow instructors, right? You see everything in Canvas, sure you've picked this up by now, has a 3 dots menu. And right over here, you have two interesting functions. One is called send to, and think about, Amazon. It is Amazon Prime Day after all. Think about Amazon, think about USPS. This is the Canvas version of that. So I can take this home page and share it to Karen because I know she really wants this. I find her in the list here. I could also share it with Jimmy. Actually, I think he's James. I can share with anybody I want. And then I can click on send. And those individuals will go to their account and locate content that has been shared with them inside this area. And from here, they'll have the option to pop it into their own course. So that's send to.
Ellen, I just wanted to point out also that when something is shared to you as a faculty member, you will get a notification that says so-and-so shared this content with you.
There's also this option for copy to. This is a little different. Let's say I had that math freshman course and then I have an upper level differential equations course, but I think the homepage is fine for both. So once I have the page ready to go in the freshman course, I can choose the other course in my list here. We'll pretend it's this one and copy it over. So now a copy of this page lives inside that other course.
And Helen, we have those share to and copy to options for any kind of content within Canvas, like rubrics, assignments, things like that.
Rubrics works just a little differently, but functionally, yes, you can add a rubric in one course and have it appear in another course. Yep. Discussions work the same. New quizzes work the same. Yep. All right. So it's just a bit about the rich content editor, more coming on that soon. Now, a Canvas page is a way for you to bring content forth to a student. But when it comes to structuring your course, you're definitely going to need to use the modules area for this. So what I have here set up is a welcome folder or welcome module. And it is ordered in such a way that students can go straight to about your instructor to find out more about me, or go to this page to see, again, another version of the course syllabus. These icons here stand for pages. You can also add files. This is a file. You can also add PowerPoint and Word items. You can also add discussion boards. Here's an example of that. And you can organize it in such a way that it makes sense for you and will make sense for students. So for example, you see that I've chosen to put a little indent next to the course discussion boards. So that makes them easy to pick out among all of the other resources available in the module. Again, more in modules in a future training. You will want to figure out at some point what your most logical course flow will be. So will it be going by units? Will it be going by chapters, by weeks, by projects? The whole idea is for you to remain consistent though. So if you start with weeks, stick with weeks, unless there's a really good reason for switching. Now, if you want to make a new module, it's as easy as locating this plus module button and giving that a name. Let's say I want to make unit 4. Select on add module, and your new empty folder pops open on the bottom. You also see right here, I have right away a way for me to add files. These are things like PDFs, Word documents, and such. So I can click on that arrow here and find a file. I'll just pick this one. And it will upload and be part of my files, which are housed in a separate area in the course.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see here, there's a little green check mark. There's also a similar symbol. It's not the same, but it's close. And just know that the check mark means that it has to be published. However, it is true in Canvas that you must publish everything. So I must publish the item, but I also have to publish the folder. If the folder is not published, the students won't see it. And there is a way for me to prove that to you. Remember, this is Unit 4, right? So I'm going to go to View as Student and just show you, I'll collapse all the folders, that the student can't see the Unit 4. So you can have a published item inside the module, but the module has to be published or no dice. Now there's a usefulness to that, right? It lets me keep on building in the course, but the students won't catch on until I publish. Now there is a function, I'll go back here, selecting on the plus button here, for me to add course resources like pages, files, discussions. And so I'll briefly show you, again, we will have more detailed training later. You can add assignments, quizzes, more files, more pages, discussion boards, links, like links to journal articles and other resources outside of Canvas. You also have ways to add what are called external tool items. So I'll just show you here, for instance. I could pull from my Office 365 and have that be linked as part of my folder of resources. And then I would click on Add Item once I have found the file to add. All right, so we're just at the half-hour mark. Are there any pressing questions we can get answered right now?
Helen, I've got a question for you. So in a module, is there a place to add directions or a description about what's in the module for the student? Would you do that just in an individual page, or would that be separate from a page and then as like part of the meta in the module? You know, there's like about this module, here's what you're going to do as a student.
So you can essentially do whatever you want. So for instance, inside this Unit 1 module, you see I've made a section title, Introduction. These are called text headers, so they offer a way for you to break the module content into more digestible pieces. So there's an introduction section, and then the content section, and then the assignments, discussions, and then a looking ahead area. Students have told me they prefer this because they like to see the overview of the module first. And then if they want more information about what's coming up, they can just click on the link and get that information. So if you want to add one of these section headers, I'll just show you that this is called a text header.
Okay.
Yeah. And along the same line, since I was discussing indents, you see I have indents here. Indents are a great way for you to make certain items distinct. So if you want to add an indent to something like this item here, you can access the menu for that item and then just choose increase indent. Now I'll tell you just one quick anecdote about my time as an instructor in Canvas. When I was building in Canvas for students, I explicitly indented anything students had to do because students would still say, I still can't find the assignment. And when I started to indent, I stopped having that question. So
Helen, if you don't mind, I just wanted to clarify, and this is for my own knowledge because I just told someone this. I want to make sure I'm correct. If you publish a module, does it publish everything in that module?
You can make it do that. There is a menu when you publish a module. Just choose Publish Module.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Now, when it comes to some quick management of modules, similar to what you saw with course navigation items, you can move folders up and down. And students will see the order of the folders, so that can be useful for them. And I'll just show you some highlights here in modules. It is possible to assign a module to a single student. So imagine I have 100 students in this course shell, right? but 5 students are really struggling really, really hard. So you can create a module with content and then assign it to specific students. So I would choose assign to and then find the student. So right now this is assigned to just Bruce. The other 99 students would not be able to see the module because strictly speaking, it's not for them.
Helen, would you see Katie's question there in the chat? It's the latest one about headers. Can you see that?
So you create header. That's how I did it, Katie. Now, this is just my style, though. I loved text headers. You can say you can simply just have a module consisting of only pages, as long as your pages were restrained, as long as you didn't have 20 pages in a module. Um, just make your module organization predictable for students so they know always what to expect from you as far as content.
So those headers are literally just like headers in a Word document. They're just giving structure
Right.
to the larger document.
Right.
And a question, can you set an unlock date for a module? And I think the answer is yes. Oh, she already found it. So yes, having
Here,
dates for modules. Yeah, very nice.
right here. Yeah, I used to make modules the week before we would do that particular piece of content, but I was always paranoid that I would forget to publish. So what I would do is I would publish the module on Friday night, but leave it locked until the next Monday at 8 o'clock. And
Mhm.
it unlocked automatically. It was great.
Yeah.
All right. So that's structuring a course in a nutshell, just so you get that kind of vision of what it could look like for you. Let's head into assignments, because after all, students have to prove mastery, don't they? Now, assignments is one of those places I would recommend you hide, only because this is your space to organize assignments.
Mhm.
It's not for student consumption. But you'll see a similar structure when you compare it to modules in that it looks like you have folders. Now, you can set this up according to your syllabus. As a matter of fact, when we do the assignment session, I would recommend you have your syllabus next to you so you can mirror the structure of your grading categories with your folders in Canvas. And in the context of assignments, we call these groups. So this is a group, that's also a group, and that's also a group. And this lets me easily categorize assignments and items in each category. Now, let's say I made a mistake. I intended for this problem set to be counted as a quiz. So there's an easy way to move items back and forth and be counted as part of the assessment for that category. And I say that because I did allude to this earlier. You can set up your gradebook here in that you would go to your assignment index to tell Canvas if you weight your groups, as many do, you have to determine the weights here, not in the gradebook, here. So here's where I'd look at my syllabus and realize, oh, this is a 40%, this is a 10%, this is a 20%, etc. And I just keep on going until I have 100%. So the weights are represented here, and that will be copied over to the Canvas gradebook, so the gradebook will calculate students' averages correctly. Now, as far as organization is concerned, similar to modules, you can move groups up and down. You can also institute features called rules. Rules would be things like, Canvas, can you drop the lowest grade? Can you drop the highest grade? Rules are located in the 3 dots for the group. You would click on edit, and then here you tell Canvas, drop the lowest, drop the highest. To make new groups, it's as simple as clicking on the plus group button. For example, extra credit, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get to that session. One option for creating extra credit is to make a group that's worth 0% because you don't want to penalize students that don't do it. But any assignment inside the extra credit group could be point bearing, like 10 points. So you use those assignments to get the extra credit points, and then you distribute them to other assignments. Now, that's a lot of talk about assignment indexes, but Helen, what about making the assignments? Because that's really important. Here's an example of an assignment. You'd be able to see and make sure your assignment directions are accessible. As you can see, you can have images, you can have pictures, video, whatever you need to have in directions. Figure out your settings, and you can even add a rubric. So let me show you the back end of this assignment so you see your possibilities. Does this look familiar? It should. This is your rich content editor area. So imagine you can have a video showing as part of your directions. You can also check for accessibility using our checker tool here. More on that later. Many of the settings are pretty straightforward. I just want to show you here that you can have different types of assignments. So just to show you here, I'd say most folks when they're starting out like the online type. It's what you think it is. The students click a button, they upload something, and then they go on their way. But there are other types of assignments like a no submission. This is perfect for an in-person oral presentation. The student is at the podium doing their thing. Now, does the student have to submit in Canvas? No, of course not. But this offers a way for you to create the column in the gradebook where you can enter the grade directly. So in other words, you can't make an assignment column in the gradebook. You have to make the assignment column in assignments, and then it will copy to the gradebook. As a former...
I'm sorry. I try to catch you in between things, but there's a little bit of a lag. I just wanted to kind of make it just very clear for our faculty that we cannot create the gradebook within the grades. Like, so if you go to grades, you have no options to make any grade items there. The only way to do that is in assignments. So the screen she was showing before that had the different categories, quote unquote, as far as the D2L nomenclature, that is the same way that we would set it up within the assignments. And she showed you how to do the drop grades and everything like that. The no submission is if you just want to have a grade item that's not attached to a quiz, discussion, or assignment. So I just wanted to point that out to make sure there was no confusion moving forward.
You can still enter a grade in Canvas. I did that all the time because I would have students do presentations too. I would just tell students, don't submit in Canvas. There's nothing for you to submit there. I will enter the grade in my gradebook and you can see your grade later. The same thing goes for on paper. I was a chemistry instructor for a long time. We still did tests on paper. If you know, you know. But this does the same function. When I create this assignment, it makes a gradebook column. And then in the gradebook column is where I enter grades once I had marked up all their blue books. There's other types of assignments too, more suited for, I think, more advanced trainings when we get to that point, like external tool and Lucid. But most people are going to pick online, and that's okay. Now, within online submission types, you have choices. I have deliberately chosen all of these because I want you to see what the student sees here in a few minutes. But if I have all these types picked, as I have, it means I am offering students choice. The student can choose to submit a video or to annotate a document or to upload a file or submit a URL or type into a box. If you don't want them to have choice, it's fine, but you need to make sure that you don't allow them that. So this is what I would suggest if you just want students to upload a file. Other options here, you have Turnitin, I see, so you can do a plagiarism review. You just have to set it up, right? You can allow a certain number of submission attempts or not. You can limit attempts. I still would recommend you have more than one because they will get confused. I used to get literature papers, band practice logs, all kinds of things because the students still got confused in their Canvas. So you should give them more than one attempt. You can allow group assignments, peer review, even anonymous grading. And then here's where you set up your due dates. Here's that default time, by the way. And then you save. And then once you have your assignment set up, you're going to have a way to attach a rubric. I already have one here. But just to show you one, I've clicked on the rubric button. You're going to see something like this whenever you're using a rubric in our grading area to enter in points as well as comments. More on that later. So that's assignments. Now, I think especially for our friends in the humanities, although all areas can absolutely use discussion boards, you have a way to create interactive ways for students to engage with each other, to ask each other questions, look at each other's work, take a look at real world applications of whatever you're teaching. All that happens within a discussion board. Similar to assignments, you have a discussion area. And again, we hide this deliberately. Here is an example of a graded discussion. It looks how you would think a discussion would look. You would have directions here, and then a way for students to reply just by hitting on the reply button there. Now, I would always recommend whenever you set up discussions that you think about guidelines, right? Like if you want them to have choice, if you want them to choose an audio or a video post, I would recommend you mention that in your discussion. Now, this is a pretty straightforward discussion in that it's for the whole class. And if you imagine, right, this class has 100 fake students, that's a pretty active discussion board. I want to show you some examples of other discussion boards, which I'll have to swipe to my Canvas to show you right here. Just to show you that you can have engaging discussions if you just use the rich content editor, right? So this is for a math class, and I have embedded a simulation. This is called Desmos, by the way, if you're interested. This can be fully interacted with. So in this context, I'm asking students to manipulate the Desmos simulation and write some challenging questions for somebody else to answer if they manipulate the simulation. So I think the power of an engaging discussion is entirely within your hands as this de facto course designer. Now, you can offer discussions in other ways too. So here's an example of a small group discussion. Remember my fictional class of 100 students. I think if I was one of those students, I would feel a little nervous posting a reply in that forum. But you can set up small groups so that only some students can access the same board. And so I'll show you here, this is for group number 3 for this discussion board that only some students have posted here. So I just want to show you here, you can give students the ability to mention each other. They can like posts. They can also manage discussion board posts through the 3 dots. So they can even go to the topic, like if they've lost track of the directions. They can do copy link, and because I'm in here as an instructor too, I can even open this in SpeedGrader for easy grading. And there's even a way for another student to report a discussion post that is out of context.
Helen, does a discussion hold multiple threads, or is one discussion its own thing, or how do threaded discussions work?
You can have threaded discussions. Let me go back here. So inside the discussions index, you can figure out settings. So here's where you allow, like, for example, the option to report replies. But when you open up a discussion, you'll have an option to view threads or not view threads. I don't think I have that enabled here either. Oh, right here. So if I had threads, I could expand them all in one click.
Gotcha.
All right, so you can have a small group discussion. Students have always shared with me they would prefer the small group discussion. And like the whole class discussion, it can also be graded. Rubrics can be attached inside the 3 dots of the discussion directions right here. You can also allow peer review. Peer review is a really powerful way for students to be able to see each other's work and even give feedback on it. So here are the directions for that. Here's just a quick look at discussion settings. And again, we will have a session on this later. So right here, by the way, because there was a question about threaded replies, you can disallow them here. So leave it unchecked for threads. You can also allow grading. And then scrolling on down here is a way for you to allow the peer review setup. So it means this, right? Let's say I'm assigned to see Karen's discussion post. So I would be able to take a look at it and even use the rubric to give comments to Karen about what I feel needs to be said about her discussion post. So you can set it up so that, say, Canvas randomly selects Karen to be the person whose discussion post I look at. Otherwise, you can have a great discussion board without peer review. Just go ahead and leave that off.
Helen, I saw that there was liking of posts, like you could allow students to, I guess, give a thumbs up or like a post. Can you then do something with that? Like this, like the most liked posts go to the top
Yeah.
or something like that? Or is it, I was just wondering about that.
A lot of times instructors use this as a kind of an informal way to gather votes. Like vote on the discussion reply that you agree with the most, for example. You can put that in the directions and then have students click on the little thumbs up you saw. I do believe you can sort by likes too once you have likes on your discussion posts. You can also have ungraded discussions. I'm going to go ahead and find one in this course here. Ungraded discussions can be just a great way for students to get to know each other. So there's an example of a Q&A, an introductions board. One great example I saw in another higher ed instructor's course was sharing study guides. That's exactly what he used these ungraded boards for, because he noticed his students would make their notes and sometimes they would share with their friends but not share with anybody else. So he created a ungraded discussion board where he invited students to post their study notes and their Quizlets and things like that. Finally, let's take a look at some options for quizzing. Here is a quiz. Again, we will have a session on this later. Quizzes are a great way for you to measure student understanding of topics, obviously. You can set it up so that quiz questions can draw from banks, like I have set up here. So, for example, in item bank 1, you can have 20 questions live there, but Canvas picks 5 out of the 20. or 6 randomly out of the 20. So item banks paired with strategic use of course settings can make it so that your semester exam could have as many versions as the number of students. There's some powerful options that live back here in settings too, like you can set up time limits per submission attempt. You can allow multiple attempts or not. You can also hide the results from students. So if it is a semester exam, yes, you need to hide those results so they don't find out right away how they did. And depending on your use case, you can even have students be able to see if they got certain questions right or wrong. You can customize all of this. Now, as far as question types are concerned, you have basically 12 different question types to choose from. Just a little bit about some of these. Hotspot allows for you to upload a picture, and students click on somewhere in the picture as their answer. So think about maps, diagrams. So they click on one aspect of that diagram, and if they clicked on the correct area, that's where their point comes from. You can also do questions that require calculation again, chemistry. So I use the formula type a lot. I would just type in the formula Canvas should use to calculate the correct answer. You can add variables too, so Canvas can pick like random numbers from a range that you specify. You can ask students to order items, categorize them. You can have it set up to where students have to watch a video and then answer questions. So you can create some really interesting questions depending on your time and your bandwidth. I'll just show you, I won't go throughout the whole thing, but you can create interactive directions here. And inside of the multiple choice answers, you can even add videos as choices, imagine, or pictures as choices, or links as choices. Or if you're like me, data tables as choices. My point is you can make this very interesting as an experience for students. I know a lot of people might be interested in moderation options. I love new quizzes because you can set accommodations once inside the course. So if Bruce's paperwork comes in and it says, hey, he needs to have some extended time, you can click on that link here and you can give him that time, just set it once here, and Canvas remembers for the rest of his time in my class. So if I want to give him 50% extended time, I would type in 1.50. You can also reduce his answer choices. So I'll just remove one choice to be clear. So if all multiple choice questions had 4 choices, he gets 3. And it's saved and I never have to change it again. Now there's a pencil here too, so I can actually moderate his current quiz attempt. This happened to me all the time as an instructor. Student is doing a quiz at home, but their internet went out because there was an outage. The quiz still runs. Like, let me be clear, it doesn't stop just because they lost contact, but when he comes back online, I can help him make up for that. So I can give him additional attempts or give him extra time.
Helen, if I may, and maybe this is to Jimmy too, and maybe all other faculty. I know that everybody on this Zoom today has probably had to deal with disability and access, with special access for quizzes. Is this how we would set up individual time extensions for groups of students, or would it be done in another place for quizzes?
They would be done here in quizzes. Now, I don't know how MTSU is going to set it up because they can set up, say, other individuals to come into your course and do them for you. I don't know what your current workflow is, but certainly you as the instructor can do this.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right, Helen, while I'm on the while I've got you here, the other thing I'd like to ask about quizzes and discussions, is it possible to set up what are called, at least in D2L, they're called release conditions? In other words, before students can contribute to a discussion, they'd need to complete the quiz associated with a certain module or a certain chapter. Is that possible to do at the quiz level or at the discussion level?
You can, but not at the discussion level. Um, I think the easiest way for an instructor to do that is to employ an advanced feature of modules called requirements. So I can make it so that students have to interact with specific items. My point is that you could essentially lock them out. So for instance, students must move through in sequential order, right? Some of these have conditions like I have to mark this page done. But now that I have requirements set, let's check view as student here. So notice here, because I set it up as all students must go in sequential order, I can't see the discussion that's down here until I do this. Does that make sense? So I think that's the most logical way for you to accomplish that. And you can do that, by the way, not just for pages, but for discussions as well as quizzes and assignments. So you can make it so that the student must, for example, get 80% on this quiz before moving on to the next item after it. All right. Speaking of grading, let's take a look at, actually, before we take a look at grading, let's take a look at quiz reports. So I'm going to head on back into my quiz here. When we do our quizzes training, I will show you a more fully built out area so that you get a sense as to what the reports will look like. For now, just know that you can access 3 kinds of reports in quizzes. You have a quiz and item analysis. You have basically the same kind of report, except it's ordered by student name. And if you employ learning competencies in Canvas and have them aligned to the quiz, you can even see how students performed compared to the learning competencies that are set up. When you see my fully built out example in that training, you'll see you can get advanced statistics like discrimination index. Can also get Cronbach's alpha. So some great insights into the usability of that quiz, the usefulness of that quiz. All right. So now is as good a time as any to take a look at grading and feedback. So let's go ahead and start with the gradebook. You would access the gradebook inside the grades link right here. Once you've clicked on it, you're led to what looks like a traditional gradebook. And as a matter of fact, this is what we call it. You get a column of students. You get a column for each assignment. Now, your course is going to get real busy. You are also going to get real busy. And when we do our detailed grading session, I'm going to show you all of the different ways you can really make the functions really work for your brain. For now, just know you can search for student. You can even compare students. Sometimes that's necessary. You can search for a specific assignment. So I'll search for what I've called 2.5 and really focus on the assignment while ignoring the others. And this is also a great opportunity for me to show you that you can see not only, of course, the grade for each student, but you can also get a sense as to the average of each student in that grading category. And because I have weights set up, Canvas will also calculate an overall grade for me. So it's living under the total column. Now, many instructors I know prefer to see the total next to the student's name. You can enable that if I choose move to front. So now I see that average right off the bat. You can also do such things as expand the column. You can also move columns around. You also have menus literally everywhere. I'll just hover over this one to show you that there is a menu for this assignment, which I'll show you a bit later. Now over here in the right, you have a gear. The gear is where you would set your late policies. Now, if you have a policy maybe set by your department where, hey, we take 10 points off, right, for every hour or for every day that it's late, you can set up a deduction here and it will take off points once it's set up. You can also have a grade showing in the grade book for missing submission. You just tell Canvas what that percent is. You also have a way to modify how your grade book looks. Because let me show you what happens when you look at your grade book for the first time. And as a matter of fact, I'll move this back too. You know, I can't count the number of times when I have gone into my Canvas gradebook thinking about one assignment and then immediately getting annoyed when I couldn't find it. I have to do this scrolling thing, and that's not helpful. Search is fine, but are there other ways for me to navigate this? And the answer is yes, you can rearrange your columns. That was a lifesaver. You can also have columns showing for you to add notes on a student. So there's that notes column here. You can also designate the colors you want to have showing in the cell when something is late or missing. And just to show you the power of that, here's 2.5, right? That assignment I looked for before. If I know my color scheme, I know exactly what happened. So I know this is late. I know this is missing. Whereas these other items are on time. And this one was resubmitted. So some good things you can do in the assignment column. Do you remember when I was talking about no submission? You can enter in a grade inside the cell. And for those of us that like abbreviations, you can use, for example, missing or EXC for excused. Ooh, need to fix that later. You can also message students. I seem to remember I had a question about this last week. You can send a message to students based upon their grade in the assignment. So I can send a message to students who have not yet submitted this assignment. And Canvas knows there were 3 of them. So I can send them a message here. I can even send them a video. I know who you are. And then hit send. You can also post your grade so that students know how they did. You can even download the results of rubrics here too. So as you saw, I can go in and type numbers in. This is exactly how I would enter performance grades, right, for no submission or on paper. But if you have students submitting, say, written papers, diagrams that they drew by hand, photos, you're going to want to look at them in an area called Speed Grader. Speed Grader allows for you to see students' work, just concentrating on one student at a time. So let's go ahead and take a look at Ben. I'm going to pick on him here. Now, depending on the type of file that is submitted, you can mark up the document. So for example, on Ben's work here, I can add annotations. I can highlight. I can do strike through. I can just type directly on top of it. And for any kind of hand-drawn indication, like me drawing this circle, easy for me to do, and I'm not that graceful, but I did it. So as long as you have used that file upload type, you can make use of this to add your comments. And yes, you can download them. You can download the paper and the annotations right here. Here's where I'd see the student's name. I can see who has submitted and who hasn't. So Bruce submitted, but I haven't graded it. Shirley submitted and I did grade it. Troy didn't do it. And when it comes to giving the grade to the students, you can type your number in here. You can even set the status. And if I have used rubrics, the rubric that is attached would be visible right here. So if you're wondering, well, Helen, you didn't actually show me where the rubrics are. You can make the rubric after you have made the assignment, or you can make it in a separate area of the course called a rubrics. But just to show you, once it's set up, it's actually pretty quick. You can just click on the square that indicates the student's achievement and add in your comments here.
And Helen, in a moment, would you show what a rubric looks like from the student's point of view?
Yes, of
In the
course.
meantime, we have a couple of questions in the chat about grades. Like, can you enter a grade without publishing it, or when you enter a grade, does a student see it immediately?
Oh, good question. You can set up what's called a posting policy. Automatic post means the student sees the grade right away. Manual posting means you have to post grades with a click, and that allows all students in the class to see their grades for a certain assignment all at once.
Okay, good. And can you, as an instructor, see if a comment that you leave about a grade has been read by the student?
You can if you were curious, so because you can see, actually, let's check on this. Let's go back to the grade book. Basically, if a student has not looked at feedback, it's marked by a blue dot. Let's see if this student can see.
If they've not looked at, so it kind of looks like an unread email message, something, some kind of indicator.
That's right. There'll be a blue dot. So you may have noticed each of these students has a link. I'm not sure why that window's not popping up, but there was a window that pops up here with the student's name on it. You can click on their name and then see their grades listing.
Hmm.
And in the grades listing, if you see dots, that means they haven't looked at it.
Uh,
Helen, I just wanted to clarify something real quick. So the question that Stacy posed, do we need to post the grades or similar to publishing the other content before the students can see it? That is specific to individual grade items, correct?
Mhm.
That you can. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that that everybody was clear on that. Thank you.
So using the rubric is fairly easy, and you can have Canvas add up the points for you, and then it would actually kind of be saved right here once they've all been entered. You can also see when students have submitted comments to you. And here's an example of a comment that I left the student, and the student can actually play the video too. And when we're thinking about like efficient ways to leave feedback in ways that are also impactful, here are some tips from someone who's been there. First of all, there's no shame if you have to do a written comment, right? You just type your comment here. But you now have ways to format your comments, right? Add a little bit more emphasis, add bulleted lists. And we all know, because we're all experienced here, students often make the same mistake over and over. You're on the 15th paper and you realize you've seen the same mistake repeated 14 times. Well, you have a way to shortcut that. You can create what's called a comment library. So I can click on that pre-saved comment and the comment pops up in the window, which saves a lot of typing time. can also attach files. You can do speech to text. When I was really tired, I did speech to text. Hi there, here's my feedback. And then it would just be printed here. You can also do video and audio feedback right here. So I click on, oh, there I am. I clicked on the little video here. Hi there, Ben. Here's my feedback on your assignment. Right? And then once that video is all rendered, once I've released the grade and the comments, the students can play it. And I'll tell you, because they told me this, while the written comments were fine in their estimation, they always watch the videos. That's what I was told. They watched the videos, they listened to the audio comments because it meant a lot to them. So a great
Helen,
way.
I'm sorry to interrupt one more time. The library that you mentioned,
Mhm.
is that specific to your account or is that specific to a class?
That is an amazing question. I am happy to tell you this follows you. So you could use the same comment library in any course you're the Canvas teacher in.
Okay, so that doesn't need to be shared with anything. I mean, you could have a blank class and go in. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. And before I forget, let's do a quick look at rubrics and then we are finished. Leave us some time for questions too. You have a rubrics space in Canvas. Here's mine. You can make the rubric here, or again, you can make it after the assignment. It doesn't matter. Here's a list of all of my rubrics in this business class. Now, you can also import rubrics. So if you're a spreadsheet warrior, which is fine to be, you can make use of our template, create the rubric on your template. As a matter of fact, you can do multiple rubrics on the same spreadsheet, upload them, and then they'll be part of your course. You can also just make a new rubric right here.
Helen, would you mind showing the comment button, the comment library button one more time, please? Just the
Yeah.
location.
So location should be in SpeedGrader. And it is at the very, very bottom. It is small, I grant you. It looks like a little speech bubble. And initially, when you don't have any comments, you'll just see the speech bubble, but I have 9 comments living in the library.
Thank you.
Mhm. All right, back to rubrics, right? Now, due to time, I can't make a really detailed rubric, but just so you get the idea, right? I can make a new criterion. I can determine the points to be awarded at each level, even limit the number of levels, put a description on each level. You get the idea, I'm sure. Save it. What's nice is you can duplicate criteria too. So if you like the same scale, you can just change the criteria name, right? Edit what needs to be edited. And then once you're satisfied, maybe this is the rubric for you, you can preview your rubric here so you get a sense as to what it's going to look like. And then you save it inside of your rubric index using that save button. And these are all the rubrics that are currently in use. So when I click on this courses and assignments link, I can find out exactly which assignment has that rubric attached to it.
And Helen, when an assignment has a rubric, what does it look like for the student?
You mean when the student encounters the assignment for the first time?
Yes, just yeah.
Go ahead and find one. Let's do this one. So here's view as student. So they see your directions. They can add a comment here, by the way. I'll just point out they can do a video comment. They will do video comments. And here's how the rubric looks.
Mhm, mhm.
And this student, like this test student submitted, so they can even see what they had previously submitted. And if they need to do another submission, there's a new attempt button here for that. So just to show you what it looks like once you get to submit assignment, these are the different ways in which they can submit. So if I choose to do text entry, it's going to look like this. All right, friends, I've got a little time left, but that is actually the end of our session. This, I think, pretty good coverage of all of the features inside a course that contribute to great content, great instruction, great assessments.
And for those that are wondering, Helen's going to do like detailed sessions on each one of these topics, like assignments and grade book and things like that. So this is again the Canvas basics, but you got a lot in the basics, so that was good. So would you take a look at those questions in the chat?
Sure.
Oh, and some of this is about the course migration, which we'll have to get answers to about rubrics carrying over from D2L to Canvas. So I think we're working on that.
Trey, I was asked by some faculty members, where will this recording be so that they could access it?
Right, good question. It'll be on the CTM page, and we'll put that link back here in the chat, but you can always get to it from the main Canvas project site. So when you go to that main Canvas project site, which is just mtsu.edu/Canvas, there's a link on every one of those pages within that site that says access the training, and that takes you to the archive of all these training classes. So we'll put that here. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Karen, for putting that in the chat.
And I'm just skimming the questions. I think everybody got their questions answered.
I'm on top of
So
it. I was rattling off answers.
you're doing great, Jimmy. Thank you. For anybody else that has questions, please, you can type them or you can go ahead and ask them here if you'd like to.
Aaron has a
Open.
question.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm trying to understand. So I'm trying to understand when the courses are migrated, like I'm looking at the schedule. When you say migrated, does that mean that you all are going to take the current content and then import it? Or does it, and then we go in and try to like reconfigure where things need to go, we double check it.
So, Trey, and I'll take this one if you don't
Yeah,
mind. Feel free to correct me. All
I'm
right, so
glad you were taking it. And Albert may be here,
the
so you maybe want to take that also. So
it really depends on what group you're going to fall into. All right, so there are three different categories. You have K16, which is going to basically, and use Trey's terminology the other day, a white glove service, which means that K16, a third party, is going to come in and grab the content, bring it into Canvas. The faculty will have no involvement in that, as far as them actually exporting or importing the material. And they are going to try to configure things the best way that they can in Canvas to an extent. All right, so
Okay.
that's option one. The second option is Canvas themselves will basically export from D2L and import into, or I know that they will import into Canvas. That's what they're going to do, but they're not going to mess with the content at all.
Okay.
It's just going to be a straight import.
Okay.
And then the last option is you as the faculty member will have to export from D2L, which is a very simple process. If you've ever import, export, copy components, rather than doing the import from another course, you would export as a Brightspace package and then import into Canvas, which is basically going to be the same process that Canvas does when they're bringing the content over. And then you would have to go in and check the content to make sure that it is configured the way that you want. There will be some differences. There are things than Canvas that Canvas does not have that D2L did, and vice versa. So it's not going to be perfect, but it will be something that will be easily manageable.
Okay, thanks. I think I'm just trying to think ahead. I'm not an early adopter and I'm just trying to acclimate myself. And I've been in looking at the empty shells and trying to figure out if it's easier, just to go ahead and get comfortable and copying and pasting things over over a long timeline, or if I should just try and import it and see how it turns out. So I was wondering when that I know, and I know it hasn't happened yet, but when that migration happens,
If you would
yeah,
like to be proactive or preemptive, choose your term. You could request a dev shell. And
okay.
then by requesting that dev shell, you could bring one of your other courses. You could export it yourself and import it in, see what it's going to look like, play with it, and see what works for you, what doesn't, what you're going to have to change, and whatnot. That would be my suggestion.
Okay, thanks.
We've gotten a lot of questions about the course migration, which is a really good set of questions. And so we're going to build out there's an FAQ on the current Canvas site about course migration, and we're going to add a lot of information to that over the next couple of days, so we get more information out to you all about that. In short, that white glove service is all the early adopters, all of their courses, then all of the fully online courses because they tend to be much more involved in terms of using the LMS, and then a big section of courses that are like heavily involved in the LMS, not just like just a syllabus and a welcome message, but use lots of tools like the discussions and things like that. So we have actually 8,000 of those that we've contracted for to get that more intensive migration service. And then another 5,000 that Canvas does for us. So that gets us to 13,000 courses, which is a pretty good number. So well, I'll publish more about that on our FAQ page.
Right. I know course migration is it's a top of mind topic. I understand you don't want to have to build every single little thing over. So